Hi, my name is Dr. Philip Alexander, and welcome to the World Revolution. And I'm here with a friend of mine I met recently through another friend who was a guest on the show, Cleonaro Hanlon. I'm here with Graham McCormack. Welcome.
Hey, what? Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Yeah.
Just summarize a little bit about what you've done in the past. So you were an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
You underwent some severe depression, and you went through a therapy known as DBT. And then you turned things around, turning towards Buddhist philosophies. You called yourself the real world Buddhist, like that.
Yeah.
You also fought in a show called Cage Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit. Well, life was very energetic at points. Yeah. Would you like me to touch on that?
Yes, please. Yeah. Let's start from the beginning. Yeah.
So I suppose like my earliest maybe memory or sensation or feeling of some form of negativity was I was about 7 or 8, and in school, it was an all male school. So like I thought, it was let's say banter, like give and take, have a joke, have a laugh. But that's banter is give and take. Banter is not when a group of people are verbally abusing you and sometimes physically on a daily basis for a few years. That's not banter. That's actually bullying. I was a bit blind as to what was going on. I thought it was kind of, I didn't see it, like I didn't really know the term bullying. I just kind of went with it. All I knew was that inside it was hurting me. It was hurting me mentally and emotionally, and I just, even at that age, I just wasn't in a very good place. I remember like coming home from school, and my parents would be saying, how was school, and genuinely curious as to how I was getting on, and I wouldn't open my mouth, wouldn't say a thing. I'd go upstairs and I'd look at myself in the mirror and I'd punch myself in the face. And that's when I was about 7 or 8. What was going on there was like I had blamed myself for the bullying. I thought that there was something really wrong with me. So I then actually physically took it out on myself when that's not the case at all.
But why were kids bullying you?
It had a lot to do with my appearance. They used to verbally abuse my mother, who would drop me to school. So it wasn't just directed at me. She was overweight at the time, and they would pick on that as if it was something seriously wrong. They were just not nice. I think it just happened one day. They had seen that it affected me, and they kind of latched on that as a group, and they went with it and played with it, and it just got deeper and worse and worse. I think they had seen that I would be the type of person to not react back, which was what they wanted, I suppose, in a way. Like if I had reacted back, they would have gone, "Oh crap! All right, fair enough. Better leave him alone." Or the kind of the natural thing as a child. But it wasn't so natural for me. I had to pull back, and it just wasn't me, to lash out at that point. No.
So how long did this go on for, this bullying?
So it started when I was about 7 or 8. I went on. It actually carried on into my secondary school. So started when I was about 7 or 8, but then actually in between all that, when I was about 11 years old, in my neighborhood, there was a few friends, so-called friends. They had drugs, and I tried drugs at 11.
Wow.
Not alcohol, like normally, like within Irish culture or whatever, I suppose, this stereotype that we're all, alcohol and all this. It's normally normal to hear maybe someone who started drinking young with just drinking, not drugs, drugs specifically. But it was actually the opposite for me. I actually started with drugs. So yeah, like I mean, I got into secondary school then, which would be high school, I suppose. And the majority of kids that were in my school when I was 7 or 8 actually ended up in my high school as well. So it
Yeah.
actually carried on at that point. Yeah.
Wow. You'd think kids would actually just get over it by some stage, but yeah.
No, there was no real letting up. I think in the moment when I was 7 or 8 that I actually didn't react back, that kind of sealed for them that they were, oh, we have an easy target here that we'll keep with this, we'll stick with this, you know.
Mm.
So there was no real let up with it. No.
So then that's when you started turning towards martial arts and that sort of thing, or what did you do? And
No, I mean, like at that point, I still hadn't done anything martial arts orientated or based. It was always kind of, I was on the kind of GA team, which would be like the local football team. Um, I've tried my hand at that kind of stuff. But all this, like, what happened one day in high school was that it had got so much for me that I wasn't talking. I still wasn't talking. That was my major issue, was not talking, was holding everything in. And then judging myself, being a male and crying with it, that I would kind of hold in the crying and then I'd hold it in again. Then a week later, I'd broken down in tears and feeling overwhelmed, So my habit was holding everything in until I went, bah, and like snapped or something, or I felt overwhelmed.
yeah.
So I remember being in high school and I actually, with this guy was at me for a while for about 2-3 days straight. There was just no letting up on it, and I actually snapped and I physically hit him.
Right.
And I got suspended from school for that, like because I was the one who was wrong in that moment
Well,
when clearly, like,
I was gonna ask, like, it's been going on for so many years. Why didn't any like staff or parents get involved, or did they know about this? That this was happening?
not up to that point. When I had snapped and I had got suspended, that's when it kind of came into the light, as if to say, okay, he must have reacted from something here today. But even at that point, I still wasn't talking. It was the fear of judgment that, again, this male would be weak if he said he's feeling upset. And that's just a lot of crap, as we know now. But back then, it just meant so much to me to hold everything in and not be ashamed of me as a human being. But yeah, I mean, again, like that, it carried on then after that as well. But what had happened was I had developed this personality of someone who was the macho guy after that snapping incident. That um, I would try to develop this personality of the guy who would say, please, like, that's kind of upset me today, just leave me alone. The kind of please route. That didn't work. I tried to be the funny guy in class, the biggest messer kind of guy, to show off. That didn't work. But what did work was the macho guy, the guy who would fight then in class, there and then, or would fight outside the school, or would fight in the neighborhood because of what someone said to me a few days before that in school. So I had gone from this person who was very shy, very timid, and very kind, and coming from the heart, to someone whose heart was very tough and cold then at that point. And I was the guy you don't mess with,
Right.
that kind of way. So that actually got me expelled from school. I was drinking on alcohol on school property at the age of 16. I had a glass bottle in my hand and I threw it across the yard and it smashed off the wall next to my principal. And I got dragged into I tried to hit him with the bottle. Like, again, trying to show off because this had worked. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this had kept people away from me.
Yeah.
Was this personality I had developed and cemented, even though it was not me at all. So you can see on the surface level I was this tough guy, but at an emotional level I was still very kind and loving and warm.
Yeah.
So it just didn't feel right. But yeah, I ended up then at the age of 16 in rehabilitation for alcohol and drugs when I was expelled from school. So yeah.
What kind of drugs were you doing, if you don't mind me asking?
So at that point when I went into rehab, you have to have an assessment as to what kind of drugs you're taking. My mother was with me at that point. She was sitting down with the assessor, and he was like, "Can you start naming the drugs you were taking?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, so I'm sniffing petrol, I'm sniffing glue, I'm smoking cannabis, sniffing Tipex." And then I went, "I've taken horse tranquilizers." And at that point, when I said horse tranquilizers, my mother went, she just broke down into tears there and then, like, she's like, like, it's not that it's the norm, but you'd hear kids kind of, in their backyard, like around here anyway, like sniffing petrol and stuff, like, but like when you mention tranquilizers, horse tranquilizers at that age, like, she was just like, oh my God, I'm in for, a shock here, like.
How'd you get hold of all of that at that age?
Like, it was the people that I was around with. So through the personality that I had developed, I was hanging around with the kids who would kind of, let's say run areas or would, that kind of way, that would, have left school for certain reasons, have also developed this persona of the tough guy, was, getting drugs and so on and so forth, and selling them when I was kind of just, I was just hanging around with them people. I wasn't selling drugs at that point. I was just into taking them to try and numb,
They weren't bullying you.
No, I was accepted by these guys.
Yeah.
And that's what made me stay with these guys. They had maybe seen that I was the person, oh, he's one of us, like he just done that in school, and like he done that to that guy over there when he said something bad about him. And it's just like, again, I actually even feel bad, even like I just felt I was that person there now again. It just feels so wrong, that was not me,
Yeah. So, so at age 16, you went into rehab. What happened after that?
So I lasted about a week and a half. I was crying every night I was in there. I had run away from the centre. I was crying in the middle of a village, in the middle of a town. They'd come along. The people who worked there had come along and gotten me. They called my parents, and they came up the next day to pick me up. And I was done with that. I just kind of carried on back with what I thought was life. I was in a relationship at that point, and then things were, a bit turbulent at that point, up and down. And then when I was just turned 19, my daughter was born. Yeah, so I absolutely panicked.
Right.
The inner voice had turned to the inner critic. You're going to be a terrible father. You're not good enough for this. You're this. You're that. You're scum. You're worthless. Which I believed, and I panicked. I ended the relationship with the mother of my child, and I tried to take my life at 19. Yeah, and I ended up.
And did you have a father growing up yourself?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
But just like he was like, my parents were always there for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not someone like I didn't grow up with nothing, like with no one around or anything like that. Like, I had parents who deeply loved me and who were there for me.
Yeah.
So it was mainly just what was going on inside me and my experience,
Yeah.
Yeah. So like after that suicide attempt, I ended up in in the psychiatric ward at that point.
So for you to try to commit suicide, could you share like what was going through your mind? Because I feel like a lot of people would go through similar circumstances or similar things in their mind to draw themselves to that action.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like the next step, because when I say the next step, I mean I was self-harming a lot at that point. I was always cutting myself. I was always punching myself in the face. I was always doing other forms of self-harm. So, like, it just seemed the next step in my mind. I wasn't thinking straight, but I was like, you're practically trying to kill yourself anyway by self-harming, by cutting yourself. You just might as well do it. Like, you don't deserve to live. You know what I mean? Just do it. So what happened there in that moment was I believed my thoughts that I was worthless, that I would be a terrible father, and that this child that had just come into the world would be better off without me because I was a worthless human being. I believed that. I ran with it, and I tried, and I ended up in the psychiatric ward for about 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, I think, around that uh, time period. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was there that you started doing DBT.
No, no, like this is like if I had to talk, Philip, I'd say about my life, man. Like it would take about 4 hours, I'd say, of everything that had gone on. Like, I mean, like at that point, I had put on a lot of weight from heavy medication. Um, I wanted to become some bit healthy. I was a bit body conscious at the time. I put on a lot of weight. You know what I mean? I was making comparisons to others, saying, look at the state of you compared to him. This kind of, that was the mindset I was in, that I was just worthless. So I joined a gym. I knew I was mentally unwell at that time and also physically. So it was a bit nerve wracking to go into the gym, but I did anyway. I did. I knew it was out of my comfort zone. I knew that's where you grow. So I went with it. And I joined a strength and conditioning class, a fitness class, to try and lose some weight. I was really enjoying it. Obviously, the endorphins were being released through exercise, through movement. I was looking after my diet, serotonin in the gut. Everything was started to come together. So I was starting to feel a bit better. And I remember going up for a fitness class one night and there was no one there. The coach hadn't come. So I was like, okay, what's on instead? And they were like, oh, boxing is on. So this was the start of my martial arts journey. I hopped into the boxing, and it was a mixed martial arts gym. So it wasn't just boxing. There was Thai boxing, there was wrestling, there was judo, there was Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there was loads of martial arts there. And I started cross-training in them all. So I was training then. I was cross-training for about 3 months, and my coach came to me. He was like, look, you're a bit of a sponge here. You're kind of, you're soaking everything up. You're using it pretty quickly. Would you like to fight? I just said, yeah. I just kind of went with it. I was like, looking at my life leading up to that point, I was like, look, lady died already. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's only a fist fight with some another human being. I was still in that kind of mindset. So I went with it, and I went up to the stadium that night, which is the 27th of November 2010 was my first fight. I was on a show called Cage Warriors, which is one of the biggest shows in Europe and if not the world. Obviously UFC is number one, but like Cage Warriors will be pretty close. And I fought and I lost that night. I went 3 rounds, but I was still, it was a new experience. I really enjoyed it. I was out of my comfort zone. I started to feel some bit better through training and diet. I knew it was something I was going to do for a long time. And I actually, like on that same show that night, there was 2 guys fighting in the main event. One of them was called Joseph Duffy. Have you ever heard of him? He's in UFC now. Yeah, and another guy, Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say that to talks with teenagers. I put it like that. I'm like, oh, Joseph Duffy, do you know him? No. Conor McGregor. And every head goes,
yeah.
But and I say to them as well that Conor actually lost that night, and that that Conor's a human being, and he is beatable. He has good days and down days, and he's not just this beast that we all see or whatever. But Conor actually lost that night, and I remember like being around Conor and everything, and it was just like, whoa, this is something I'd never felt in my life. It was amazing. So yeah, I carried on competing then for about 2.5 years, and I had about 8 MMA fights. I had about 2 boxing fights, and I've lost count how many grappling tournaments I had. But I got the opportunity to fight for a belt in 2012. I remember going down there, and there was no such thing as mindset back then. Like there was zero self-awareness. Like I was going in here without any form of mental training or understanding or awareness. Like it was just if anything that I was aware of was self-doubt that I wasn't able for this. So I went in, I touched gloves with my opponent, and within 12 seconds I got knocked clean out. just knocked poof, onto the floor, kicked in the head.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's MMA, so like
Yeah.
it's not just hands; it's legs. You have to be wary of them legs as well, as
Yeah.
I know now. But yeah, I remember being picked up then by part of the medical team and one of my training partners. And I remember in that moment, I felt as low as I'd ever felt, like as with regards being a human being and this tough guy
Yeah.
that I built up to be.
So
To
do
be,
you think your ego got wounded, perhaps in that moment?
yeah, yeah. I always say like again to the teens, I'll be like, oh, my ego got bruised that night. No, actually, no, my ego got shattered that night based off the mindset that I had coming into that. Oh, you're a tough guy. You're the macho guy. Even though there was still no form of self belief,
Yeah.
but I was just this tough guy, in my head.
Yeah.
And I knew that wasn't me, and I got brought back down to earth pretty quickly. Within 12 seconds, I was back at earth. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I remember being walked through the crowd by the medical team and one of my training partners, and I was just like, "Oh, you're worthless. You are terrible." You know what I mean? Like the inner critic again had reared its ugly head, and it was screaming at me at this point. That you're worthless. You can't fight. You're this. You're that. And I remember going into the training room where I'd warmed up, and a coach of mine was there, and I was waiting for him to go, there, it happens to everyone, kind of a thing, or, you'll get him again, or whatever. It's like something generic,
Right.
just to kind of comfort me, but
Yeah.
nothing. He didn't even look at me. He didn't even look at me.
But
Yeah.
why was that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Because at that point, in that moment, I made a decision to walk away from the sport, walk away from my team, walk away from everything. And I did. I never asked him why. I never figured out why through conversation or anything. It was just,
Yeah.
I just walked away from the sport. I just felt worthless. Yeah.
Right. So what did you do then?
What I done then was I carried on what I thought was life. And by life, I mean like absolute, just madness to the point of like overdosing on drugs. I ended up in the psychiatric ward again.
At this
I
stage, you had your kid. Your kid was born.
Yeah, but yeah, she would have. 2012, so around 2013, she would have been about 3 or 4. Yeah, or 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, like like that was always in the back of my mind as well. You know what I mean? It was always there that I was a terrible father. Do you know what I mean? And like I wouldn't go near my daughter, I wouldn't see my daughter because I was in such a state. You know what I mean? I can feel that now again, but like now in this moment, I get to see her whenever I want, and she's like I'm a beaming light for her, like, and she just
Yeah.
me and her are like there's no separating us at all, and I think that's because of what had gone on throughout the years that like addiction had brought me away from her. My mental state and being had brought me away from her, had separated me from her. So like in 2013, then I was given an ultimatum at home: get clean and sober, or you're not living with your family anymore. Um, I tried for about 2 3 days, and I broke down again, and I started using again, and that was it. I was out of home. They had enough of me. They kicked me out.
How old were you at this stage?
I was about 24.
Okay.
Yeah, 23, 24, around that age, I think. Yeah.
So were you overdosing at that stage?
Yeah, I
Or were you
overdosed
getting
once.
close? Yeah.
Yeah, I overdosed once at that point. And I ended up in the hospital.
Yeah.
And a crisis team was called to deal with me and stuff, and it was just like I had no answers, so they had no answers. It was just like all they knew was I was presenting to the hospital on a regular basis. I was known to the hospital. Um, I was coming in by ambulance, or I was presenting myself in terrible states. So this had gone on for a while. They just didn't know what to do with me,
Right.
and I certainly didn't know what to do with myself. So
Yeah.
We were all lost. We were all just lost as to what to do with Graham,
So how did your perspectives change? Because you're a completely different person now.
Yeah, like it's just a giant quantum leap. Like it's just, yeah, it's just like everyone is saying it to me like that. Like within the space of 2 years, that you've literally just completely changed. Like everyone had given up on me. I'd given up on myself at points as well, clearly. But everyone genuinely thought that like there's no that I was in no hope. That Graham was like we had lost Graham. Like Graham was no more. But everyone now says that like just well, you know. Yeah, yeah. And I mean that happened like when the therapy then came along. I got into a relationship. At the point I was homeless. I was kind of meeting up with a girl or whatever, and um, I she took me in. She looked after me. I formed a relationship with her, but it was absolutely toxic for both of us. I was really tearing the girl apart, like
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally, and like she was then reacting off of that and giving it back. So it was very bad for me as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so like the therapy came along then. I'd always had a psychiatrist from a young age, and she was like, "Look, there's this therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy.
Uh,
It's it would be similar to CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy.
yeah.
Um, so you know CBT, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like I suppose like I had gotten a diagnosis of emotionally unstable personality disorder. Is
Right.
what they had labelled me at that point. Obviously, like there was a few other um, labels like thrown around, and they were like, "Look, you could be this. Will you come in for a test or whatever?" This kind of showing up, or I was like, "Okay." And I had a few psychological tests, and eventually, then after, I think it was actually after the overdose when I ended up in the psych ward again, and my psychiatrist come to me and she was like, "Look, I'm diagnosing you with emotionally unstable personality disorder." So the therapy for that, specifically for that, is called dialectical behavioral therapy. So yeah, so like if you had maybe depression as your major symptom, like normally you'd go for CBT,
Yeah.
or anxiety, or if you were not anxiety, which was your major symptom, like you go CBT.
Yeah.
But I had felt all of that. I had severe behavioral issues. My self harm was through the roof. I had massive impulsivity. Like within seconds, I'd just lash out at myself or others. I was, like I was like crazy behavior, like you know what I mean, taking alcohol and drugs and like speeding as fast as I can and could,
Yeah.
as I could in a car. Sorry, like like if I died, I died, kind of a thing. Like
Yeah.
it was just like it really was very very scary times.
Yeah.
So then DBT came along, and it was a one-to-one and a group therapy session a week, so 2 sessions a week, one with a therapist and one with a group. And I remember my therapist sitting me down, and she said, "We're just going to practice mindfulness. Can you gently close your eyes?" And I was okay. And oh, no, no. I had to come out straight away. I did not like what was going on in my head at all. Within seconds, I had to jump out.
Wow.
And she was very comforting. She was like, "Look, it's okay. There's no judgment from me or anything." And I was just like, "Wow, this is such a nice person." Straight away.
Yeah.
Um,
That's not something that you were used to.
No, no, because there was no understanding of Graham growing up. Um, like everyone thought that I was just this, this not nice person.
Yeah.
That I was just that was just me who I was.
Yeah.
And like they just didn't understand that there was a lot going on inside,
Yeah.
internally.
Yeah.
That I was showing then to the external through my actions and behaviors, and you know, it's just like when I got the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, which is another name, I'm just throwing letters out here now.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of acronyms and stuff, but and abbreviations. But then they kind of went, okay, maybe there is maybe there is, a lot going on inside that we just don't fully understand just yet.
Right.
So it took them a while. It took my family, it took my friends, it took everyone a while to understand that at that point I was very unwell, and that label that I had been given was fitting just for that moment. Now, no, I don't label myself with that at all anymore. I'm working with my psychiatrist to kind of just to scrap the label and get rid of it.
So do
You know,
you agree with how mental health is practiced in the world? In a sense, you've
um,
gone through it yourself. So.
what I suppose what I don't agree with is certain fields saying their way is the only way. Do you understand? Like I'm on about maybe like psychologists or psychiatrists, not agreeing with a shaman, saying no, that's not going to work at all.
Yeah.
Like if we truly collectively came together and actually worked together, and we were open to each other, I think we would seriously raise the level of consciousness in this world.
Yeah.
As opposed to going, my way is the only way, yours is crap. No way.
But that
You know what I
that's
mean?
but that in our health system, it's generally like that. Would you say?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. From my own experience and
Yeah.
perspective, yeah. Like genuinely, like my psychiatrist is a female in her late 40s. She strikes with an iron fist. It's her way or no way, you
I
know.
see. Yeah.
Um, like
Yeah.
I've mentioned like Buddhism, spiritual paths, throughout the years, and no eye contact, not even listening. It's fine, that kind of way. Obviously
Yeah.
listening, but disregarding what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that really ticks me off that that everyone cannot come together and that they're so strict and set in their own ways and beliefs that that's the only way.
But
No.
so if you were doing DBT, so is that like what opened you to start exploring more the spiritual route?
It did you? Yeah, because I was in that time when I started DBT, I was a very stereotypical Irish guy, Irish lad is what it's called. Like I work, I drink loads, like cars, football,
You got
spirituality. What's that? No way.
yeah.
you know, like it's like that was my mindset.
Right.
Yeah. So when DBT came along, I was like, and mindfulness was mentioned, and that's what DBT is. It's mindfulness at its core. It's mindfulness based. So I was like, even then, I was like, this is just like a load of hippies. Like, what is this? Like you sit down and you become aware. No, what's that? No, I wasn't open to it. But when I actually became open to it, is when I could actually implement it and see the difference that it actually made with regards me and becoming self-aware, understanding Graham,
Right.
understanding his triggers, understanding the intensity of my emotions, just becoming aware. That's all. And
But
that's what mindfulness is.
yeah, fair enough. So,
Mm.
so how did you bring that awareness to? Because when you're in that space where you just you could say you're in a dark place, and it's really
Mm.
hard to see yourself out of that. So you obviously had professional help to bring your awareness to something that was going on. Uh,
Yeah.
and so what? So when that happened, you just started. You picked up a book, or you.
So my problem even when I was being mindful, even when I was aware that I was in a very negative state that day, um, like I had a lot of time on my hands. I wasn't working. I couldn't hold down a job. Um, I lived at home. I lived on my couch. I was on heavy medication. Trying to get up the stairs to my bed was an issue. I was extremely heavy at that point for my body frame. And what I was doing with all that time was driving myself into the ground mentally. I was overthinking situations, scenarios that might not even happen. In that moment, I was just going, "Oh, sure, what if this happens?" And I was jumping from thought to thought, just overthinking. Overthinking the negative through worry, through fear. Um, but all along, I was still, there was just that tiny bit of light within me where I would pick up a book and maybe read a bit of a chapter, not even a chapter, you know, and that's enough, you know, and that's that to me. That's that snowball effect, you know, planting that little seed and watching it grow and evolve into something bigger. You know, I would always maybe research something on the internet. Just even if I was overtaking that entire day, oh, my life is crap. You might as well give up. You're going to die anyway. This kind of stuff. Then I would just get that break and that negativity, and I just maybe read something or research something, or I would set my phone for 1 minute and try and meditate. Just try. That's all. Not actually meditating, not in a state of meditation, but trying. You know, being willing to do something. Going outside the door. At one point, I was 18 stone and 10 pounds, and I used to set the timer for a minute to go outside my house because I was a prisoner of my own thoughts with anxiety. I was afraid to leave the house in case I got knocked down crossing the road or someone was going to hurt me.
Right.
But I remember leaving the house, and I was 25 or 26 at this point, and my mother would follow me up the road.
Yeah.
She was afraid that I was going away to seriously harm myself to the point of no return, you know.
Yeah.
But that's like within all of the darkness, there was that small bit of light, and I was still willing to just to do a bit of research or practice a bit of self help or whatever you want to call it or label it, you know. There was always that tiny bit of light there.
And
Yeah.
why Buddhism?
Um, I came across Buddhism through the use and practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness started working for me on the therapy, and I went back and started to study a bit about mindfulness. You know, and then I'd seen, you know, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and I was just like, this makes so much sense.
What
Like,
are they?
so basically, the Four Noble Truths are all about accepting that you're going to suffer in life, finding out what you're suffering from, and then trying to lessen the suffering. Understand that? So that's just the Four Noble Truths of life: accepting you're suffer, finding out why you're suffering,
Yeah.
and then getting to work on it, and so on and so forth. And then once you've found that, you move on to what's called the Eightfold Path, and it's a way.
So if I could, yeah. So would you say that everyone suffers in life in a sense, like that's inevitable. That's a
Um,
human condition.
yeah, like my mind would my belief on that would sway at times. It was more comforting for me in that moment to believe that. Yeah, yeah. Um, as I said, my mind would sway from that. Like I've had times where I've gone, like, were you really suffering? Well, like, you know, like the humanistic part of me, the human nature inside me was in a victim mindset, and it was all like, oh, my life is so bad and this and that. But I think deep down, my soul knew that I had to go through that. I was putting me through that so I could practice Dharma then and the law of giving back, you know.
Right.
So, like, you know, I can kind of sway on that, you know, and say, oh, yeah, look, accepting of suffering is part of life, you know,
Yeah.
and that you're going to suffer. And I actually spread that today to a group of teenagers. I was there going, accepting that you're going to have days. You need to be accepting of you're going to have days where you're just not 100%. You know what I mean? If you're not accepting of that, and then it creeps up on you,
Yeah.
you kind of panic and go, oh, I feel really bad here. What do I do? And you know, so
Yeah.
I think that was an important point I made today. Hello,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
there? Yeah, sorry about that. That was someone trying to ring me, even though I told everyone not to ring me at this point. But anyway, um, yeah. So I mean, that was like one of my issues was I wasn't accepting. Like I thought was putting too much pressure on myself to feel good all the time, feel good, feel good, feel good. And then when I didn't feel good and it wasn't working, I would go completely downhill. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so I
I
wasn't
can relate to that.
accepting. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't accepting of the days I wasn't 100%. And I also mentioned to the group today that you should not judge yourself for that. Just because you're having a down day, a not so good day, doesn't mean you shouldn't feel that way. So don't judge yourself either, because that can actually add to the intensity of the negativity as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe that. Yeah, yeah, the
And
accepting.
and what was the other part of the Buddhist teachings you were saying? Yeah.
So there was another part called the Eightfold Path. Um, Once you've found out about your suffering and so on and so forth, and you've dealt with it, in a way that this is then the path to living your life, the Eightfold Path. Um, uh, so one part of the Eightfold Path itself was mindfulness, and that's where I was able to relate then, because mindfulness is becoming aware in this present moment, non-judgmentally. So literally just becoming aware of what's happening for you right now, just checking in with yourself. And when I was practicing that, it's one of the most powerful of the eight, where I didn't know I was suffering. I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't mindful. And then through mindfulness, then I was like, okay, that's what happened to me now today. I became aware of it. And my issue was self harm, where I would normally lash out at myself by like punching myself in the face or whatever. So I actually observed through mindfulness that there's stages to that. So what I mean by that is I would observe the thought. I'd go, okay, do you know that negative self talk? Okay, you're a scumbag. You're a waster. You're worthless. Then down here,
The mind chattering in a way.
yeah. Just the mind going, oh, you're worthless. So that was the thought. And then down here, I'd have the feeling then of shame or low self worth. And then I would feel an urge. And then I would want to follow that urge with an action of hitting myself in the face. So it's, for me, I observe thought, feeling, urge, action. So in that moment, again, being able to slow down and become aware and break it down into steps, I knew at the point I felt the urge to hit myself that I did not have to do that. You know what I mean? So thought, feeling, urge, no, I can breathe in this very moment deeply.
Right.
I can focus my attention wholeheartedly on the all of the inhale and all of the exhale. And then there's techniques then to count your breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, and back. Your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So when I'm focusing on my breathing, I'm not focusing on hitting myself in the face or the feeling of it or the thought, hit yourself in the head. So I was able to shift my focus to my breathing and not to anything else. And if it did go to the thought then of me wanting to hurt myself, I would center myself and bring it back to my breath always, you know. And that's why when that was going on, I felt that it was me against my mind, in the fact that my mind was clamoring for all this attention to hurt myself. And then I felt separate from my mind, which is not true, like for me, in my experience. When I separated myself from my mind in that moment, it was a war. I felt it was a war between me and my mind. You're scum, you're worthless. Kill yourself. No, 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 leave me alone. Stop, stop, stop. Graham was shouting then.
Right.
So I actually separated myself from my mind, and it became a daily battle. But I through meditation and through mindfulness, I was able to gently tame my mind into loving submission.
So,
And it, yeah.
what kind of meditation practice do you do? How do you
Um,
get yourself to?
so through my years of meditating and practicing mindfulness, I've observed myself when I'm in that meditative state. Now, could it be 10 breaths in, 10 deep, slow breaths, or could it be 25? I do not know. All I know is I'm in that state. And from there, then, whatever it has been upsetting me that day, or let's say if I'm feeling tension in my body that day, then I know later that night it's a meditation for relaxation of all my muscles to get into a nice, comforting state. And that could go on until I feel I am ready to come out of that meditation then. So my meditation was normally going off me becoming aware of how I was feeling that day or that week or whatever, you know. Um, that's how I was going off meditation, just based off me.
Okay. Yeah, this leads me to I ask all of my guests this question: what is your life purpose? Would
My
you?
life purpose.
Yeah.
My life purpose is to live the law of Dharma and give back.
What's that?
So it's again from Buddhism. Um, so basically, the word for suffering that I was on about is called dukkha. It's where you suffer in life, but you gain wisdom from that, and then you give back to humanity, and that's called dharma. Then your dharma is giving back.
I see.
Um, yeah, so that's like I have literally lived that. I have lived that, and now I'm giving back in any way possible. Um, like I'm speaking at schools. I'm sending comforting messages. I'm always open for hugs. Not everyone else is open for hugs, but I'm just spreading that love and that light, man. Because like I believe in the law of karma as well, and like when I was very unwell, I was putting a lot of negativity into the world. Um, and now I'm replacing that with the good, the love and the light, you know. And it stems from a deep love for myself first, but also just humanity. You know, I just it breaks my heart to see other human beings suffering in any way, shape, or form. You know, I do feel it's my dharma, my purpose to help them, but it's not possible as well. You know, you can't help the entire world as much as we want to, coming from a loving, kind heart. But you know, I couldn't give back unless I started to love myself first and look after myself. You know, so it starts from this point, and then you give out. Yeah.
So how do you how do you help people now? What do you do for
Uh,
yourself?
so I'm literally at the start of my journey, of my purpose, of my dharma. I started maybe about a year ago, literally a year ago. I put out my life story on Facebook to let other people know that they're not alone. I've been through some very dark points in my life, and at points in my life I had felt alone, that I felt I was in so much darkness that no one on the entire planet had been through what I've been through, when that's not true. Look at the amount of people on this planet, you know.
It's 8 billion people
Yeah, of
are
course,
going through
yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And like in my head I was like, oh, no one's ever gone through this. So I remember thinking that back in the day, and I was like, okay, if I put up my life story, hopefully it'll reach someone who had that the same thought process that I had before. Um, so I shared my life story, and within an hour, 46,000 people had seen my life story on Facebook. I had over 300 comments, and I panicked when I seen the comments. I was like, oh no. I thought everyone was going to judge me, saying, you know, because there was drugs in my life, and like, oh, he's a scumbag, or like he couldn't see his daughter. What type of a father was he? But there wasn't one negative comment out of 320 something, I think.
Wow.
There wasn't one, man, and everyone was so supportive. And what really struck me was the amount of people that were going, I really needed to hear this today. I really needed to read this today. Um, and that was very powerful for me in that moment to go, what I was thinking had actually come true, that me putting this up had actually helped someone. And that wasn't just one person, that was easily about 50 of the 300 messages were people saying, I really need to see this today, you know? Um, so that was my starting point, and that was a year ago. I've I continue blogging now, as you've probably seen kind of on Facebook and Instagram. I'm doing talks on building sites, you know, with all males, you know, this guy with the big neck tattoo, the fighter, you
What
know,
is that
did,
tattoo? It looks like sacred geometry or something. Is it?
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is
Right.
geometric patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
for me, it's 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 energy. Okay, so it's buzzing. My neck is always buzzing, but it's in my throat chakra,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
I speak a lot. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it just made a lot of sense It was also a sign of new beginnings for me. New energy, new vibration. When I became clean and sober
Yeah.
in 2016. So it was just, it was just perfect. But yeah, when that's it, I was just speaking to others. I'm trying to empower others to see the light in themselves. That I always use the term self. Self love, self respect, self worth, self acceptance. It has to start with you, and life has a ripple effect. When you're good, people around you tend to be good as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I couldn't do this unless I looked after myself as well. I couldn't. I wouldn't even be on here talking to you if I didn't start with myself. Um,
I've seen, like, you've spoken at schools with school kids. Uh, do you think bullying is something that's still going on in schools at that age?
yeah, I talked to a secondary school, a high school the other day. An entire school. There was 420 students there, and a lot of them came up to me. Let's say there was about 20, 25 of them. Let's say 25 came up. At least 20 of them were saying they were being bullied. That they were feeling very, uneasy around others. And this one guy came over to me. He was only about 16, and he was I could just see him already. He was very, very timid in nature. He's very quiet and very, like, placid. And he opened up to me, and he was just, he was crying, and I was just like, trying to comfort him, and as you do. And he was saying that, like, his parents are struggling with finances and jobs, and they're under a lot of stress at home, and that he didn't want to open up to his parents in case he burdened them, and I was just like, that's not how it goes, but it's they're your parents. They will put everything aside for you, believe me, as any parent would. And he got comfort in that, and he was going to a counselor then a week later and stuff, like next week, and it was cool to do that. I really felt I helped him and comforted him in that moment. And I felt amazing, but I was also shocked that 3/4 of the people that came up to me were still, but that bullying was a major part of that.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to students again today, and I was just saying that with regards bullying, it's not that there's something wrong with you being bullied. There's actually something wrong with the bully inside.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, anyone who's ever bullying, they were not born a bully. Like, they have developed this character to maybe deflect away from what's going on inside them, and they're attacking someone else
Do, do,
over it.
do you think you became a bully as well yourself when you started
I
to get more of your power and in that way?
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, 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 and I always say that as well, that
Yeah.
I was getting bullied, and then I turned into a bully.
Right.
Very temporarily, just before I got expelled from school. But, like, that was the way of me really gelling with all these people that I had absolutely despised from the way they were treating me.
Yeah.
But yet I still wanted to please them in some way. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, it really was a really warped mindset to be in at that time. It was just like, no, I don't. As I said, like, anyone who is bullying has something going on within them,
Yeah.
and that's why I used to beat myself up over it and go, why were you that person that you hated so much? But then it became, like, actually understanding of myself, that there was a lot going on inside me as well. And I was just trying to fit in. It wasn't the most productive in any way, shape, or form. I had a lasting impression on others in a negative manner as well. But there was still a lot going on inside me as well. Graham wasn't well at that time, He chose something not productive. That's all. I don't beat myself up over that anymore. Because I did, like, and that was adding to my suffering. You're terrible. Look what you did to him, and you hated them, but you became that. How dare you?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I'm actually understanding of myself in that time now.
Uh, Thank you for sharing all of that, Graham. I got a round of questions here. Some of these are interesting, some of them are fun.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Some of
yeah.
them are out there. Um,
Yeah.
what do you understand consciousness to be?
With regards to consciousness, is understanding on a different level. To me, consciousness is trying to understand the life, the reality, the world that we are in, and there would be levels to that. Does that make sense?
Well, levels like, would you say like levels of awareness? How you
Yeah, I
perceive
would say that.
things?
Yeah. That's what I'm on about. Like, because like when I had found mindfulness, automatically there was a level of awareness and understanding within me that had gone to a different level that I'd never been before. And
You
then
could
as I
see
progressed,
you could
yeah,
see things that before you wouldn't have been aware to.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I had seen patterns and signs with regards my reality and how it was forming, and I was like, wow, you know. And then I feel that you progress through levels of that then as you go on your journey. For me, it's ever expanding, you know. And that's consciousness to me. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on aliens or extraterrestrials?
Um, I am absolutely open to that concept. Yeah. Do I lose sleep over it? No.
Do you believe they exist?
uh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just look at the galaxy. Look at look at look at the universe in general. Like, to say there's not another life form somewhere is no way. No. I certainly believe they exist. Yeah. But again, I'm comforted in my sleep. Yeah. I'm comfortable.
uh, well, what this brings me to my next question. What scares you?
what what scares me?
Yeah.
Um, Scares me. I don't really know, man. I suppose, like, before, when I was in my anxiety state as a child or whatever, other humans would have scared me. Other people. Um, do humans scare me now? No. And what I mean by that is I'm not the big tough guy again. It's that I'm actually understanding of other human beings now. So nothing physical scares me. I have gone to places in my head that it would have frightened me. I had a big fear of change and of the unknown. That scares me. Not all the time, not all the time, but sometimes, yeah. Um, so yeah,
You mentioned you've dabbled in drugs and have you done much plant medicine and things like mushrooms or DMT, and have you had any
yeah,
experiences like that?
yeah. I smoked DMT. I've tried all hallucinogenics. I've tried acid, LSD, mushrooms, mushroom tea, everything. That's about everything really. Um, what I found the most powerful was acid drops, the liquid form.
Yeah.
You can get them in bottles, and DMT were the most
What
profound.
right? What were your experiences like?
With the acid drops, I took way too much, like way too much. I was tripping for about 3 days straight, of like severely intense hallucinations at the start to begin with. But then I got into this state of utter awareness of my head, my mind. Okay, so what I mean by that was, I was sitting back from my mind, observing everything that was going on, like I was looking at a cinema, and I was just passing through. It was utter detachment in form.
Right.
So what was happening around that time as well was I was going through mindfulness,
Yeah.
DBT. So it was already stored in my consciousness, you know. And what I was doing was just literally detachment in motion. I was just sitting back with my thoughts, leaving all this crazy shit past me. Um, I used to smoke cigarettes at that time as well, and I remember I was kind of coming down from my trip. I was coming back to reality or whatever you want to call it, but I was smoking a cigarette, and next thing, all I was seeing coming out of this cigarette smoke was dollar sign. Like,
Oh
every time I
wow.
was blown out, every time I was blown out smoke, it was
Yeah.
dollar signs. It was like, oh shit, I'm still tripping. But Yeah, and then I smoked DMT as well. I smoked DMT a lot. Um, that was powerful, very like scarily powerful. Something I'd never experienced before with any drug. Um, so I got the lettuce, the kind of chenga stuff. It looks like soggy cannabis weed, but the DMT is the crystals on the leaves. So this is my first time smoking it, and my buddy took all the crystals. He separated all the crystals from the soggy leaf parts, and he put the crystals in the bong. Like I hit it, and I was like, within seconds, I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh no. Within seconds, it was highly powerful. I actually forgot how to breathe at one point, which like that it would take a lot for that to happen. Do you know what I mean? So what I was seeing was a lot of very, very, very vivid, sharp, fast, intense kaleidoscopes.
Right.
And
Yep. Similar
it
to
was,
the pattern on your neck,
yeah,
in a
yeah, yeah,
way.
yeah. And I felt I was going into other dimensions and coming back rapidly, and it was just cycling. That's why it was scary. If that was happening at a slow pace, I would be cool with that. I'd slow down. I'd experience what's going on, but this is happening very, very quickly because the crystals of the plant are the strongest part.
Right.
And he done that to mess with me. Fucker. He's my friend. He's like that.
So, would you say that some drugs are actually healing in a sense?
uh, um, yeah, I like if you're talking healing, it would just be along the lines of hallucinogens for me. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen studies of like MDMA and so on and so forth, like saying these are healing and like I've tried all drugs. Like the MDMA made me 100 times worse within myself. Like
right.
like thinking I'm having heart attacks, my heart's going 100 miles an hour, and it's like freaking out. You know what I mean? And like this wasn't just in the moment. This is lasting for weeks on end afterwards. Like
Right.
look, like we're all different. We all experience things different. Um, but no, I don't believe that. If you're going along the lines though of DMT,
Yeah.
to like I was going through spiritual awakening at that point. Um, I believe so that sped up me my transformation onto another level of consciousness, which is cool. That's
Yeah.
perfect. I am where I am now because of that. But like no, not with like cocaine and MDMA saying these are healing. Is no, I can't believe that. I can't.
Yeah.
No, like mushrooms, cool. Even LSD and acid, like being chemical based or whatever. Like, but still hallucinogenic form. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that as healing. Yeah, but no, not with cocaine and stuff. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, what are your thoughts on past lives and reincarnation?
Okay, so being a Buddhist, reincarnation would have been a belief of mine. Yeah. So my belief again has chopped and changed as I've gone through levels of consciousness and so on and so forth. But like for me, I believe that we come from divine source energy, that it does not end. Um, so literally, I'm a part of source having a human experience. Will I come back as a cat? Depending on how I live my life now, I don't know. I don't really care. All I know is that Graham, will never end. My physical form may rot and die and so on and so forth, but will I come back in the next life or whatever? I, I don't lose sleep over that anymore, man, because I've wasted a lot of years on that,
Yeah.
worrying and thinking of what's going to happen when I die and or where do they originate and all this. And I mean wasted because I literally procrastinated on things, sitting down, thinking about this stuff, holding myself off from the true meaning of life and actually experiencing life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's I believe that's why I'm here is to experience life, and I have experienced it to a deep level, and now I'm giving back with my dharma. Like whatever happens when I close my eyes, I I'm good with it, man. I'm okay with it. I know it's something beautiful. That's all. Yeah, yeah, and I can feel it. Yeah.
What is one thing you would tell yourself if you could go back in time when you're 20 years old? with everything that you've known now?
There's so many. One thing I would say: awareness. Become self-aware. Become self-aware. No matter what's going on, if you're aware of it, you can make a change if necessary. If I was self-aware at a young age, like what I'm doing is like trying to get into schools, teaching mindfulness, because I'm a mindfulness coach of the adults and kids, and that's my belief is prevention rather than cure. Is to prevent something rather than have a child slip through the net and then is suffering there at my age, at 25, 26 back then. It's like it's just becoming self-aware is step one. If we became self-aware the second we came onto this earth, I think we would live very different lives. Yeah.
Uh, what are 3 books that have influenced you most, and why?
I finished my first ever book cover to cover in 2016. Sorry, 2017.
Right.
I'd never, ever finished the book until then, because I believed that I had problems with reading, and I believed that I had a short attention span, and I believed all of this. So I never did it. But I read The Secret in 2017, which
Okay.
opened my eyes to law of attraction, and there being something else than what you're taught in life, in school, in church, in like wherever you are. You know what I mean? That it just blew my mind that you could actually attract, that you are your point of attraction in life, and depending on how you're feeling and thinking creates your reality and attracts back. It's just like, wow, never ever ever heard of that.
It's
It was,
empowering.
yeah, like literally, like I read The Secret when I first came across it when I was about 6 months clean and sober. um I was going through a spiritual awakening. I'd lost a lot of weight at that point. The timing of that could not have been better. Really, like, thank you, source energy, for that. You know what I mean? It's just like, wow, it was just amazing. So I've read other books. I've read, there's only one other coming to my mind, and it's Jack Canfield. He was one of the guys on The Secret, the movie itself. Um, his 25 Success Principles, how to get from A to B. It was very, very powerful as well. I would highly recommend that book. Yeah, Jack Canfield is amazing. And that's opened the doorway then to me of researching more about, like, who are these powerful people. I've never come across people like this, like Jack Canfield, or like even you know, and Cleena and Brandon, and like I would never have even, I couldn't even dream 10 years ago that there was people like you on this planet. It
Yeah.
was just like, it's just amazing, and things, and that's again my level of awareness and consciousness has gone up. So you're now in front of me, and I'm now speaking to you on this phone. It's just amazing, and I can see things just getting better and better, man. And that's finally in my life. Yeah,
Who would you say is your biggest inspiration?
inspiration.
Mm.
My biggest inspiration. I tend, I suppose, my father. He has inspired me a lot. He has a very old school mentality. Like, he's like, the tough guy, go to work, provide for your family. Um, that kind of mindset, kind of old school mindset. But I know deep down what he's saying is not what he's saying. So what I mean by that is, there was times he would tell me to man up. That, like, that's not a good thing to say to anyone. Man up.
Slow,
But
tough love.
but what he was saying really was like, you need to be a bit stronger in this moment. Take responsibility for what's going on. You know what I mean? So there's levels to what he's saying. I know, because he's my dad, that like he's not just saying toughen up. He's saying, come on, let's get your stuff together here, buddy. So yeah, like he's a workhorse. He's working since he's 12 in a cardboard box company. Um, he's a very powerful man. I look up to him. But do I want to live the life that he has lived? Not necessarily, no. Like his whole life was based around a 9 to 5 job. You come home, the wife would have dinner for you. You got to bed, you're up the next day. I'm not judging his experience or his life, but I'm just saying it's not for me. That's not the life I want to live. But he's certainly a role model and has certainly inspired me to be better in everything that I experience. To man up, as he.
Well, this I always finish up with this one question, which I feel is quite profound. If today was the last day on Earth, what would you do?
What would I do?
Mm.
If today was the last day on Earth, what would I do?
Yeah.
Would I be the last person left on Earth, or
yeah,
or just overall?
Yeah, overall. Yeah.
What would I do? I would grab those that matter the most to me. I would grab them. I would not let them go. And I would go with them. Yeah. Just have them close to me, man. Really, that's a very powerful question. Yeah. Just have them close to me and just go with them. That's all. Yeah. Pass with them, because that question is very powerful. That it puts things into perspective. That what would really matter to you in that moment is what you're asking us. I presume, is it? Yeah. And that is what would matter to me is those closest to me. To just hold them tight one last time. Yeah.
Thank you, Graham, for doing this interview. I know you do a whole lot of interviews. You've been on TV, I think, as well.
Yeah, I was on national TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Really grateful that you agreed to do this with me. I wish you all the best with everything that you're doing, and let's change the world in a way.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. No, I really, really appreciate you for. I mean, it didn't work out last week, which I appreciate that you still want to be on. And just saying to you, just want to say to you that well done in everything you're doing as well. I mean, with me, with you, with Cleena, with Mark, with all the others, with Brandon and everyone, that it's people like us who have just become aware at a certain level of consciousness, and we're doing what we're doing to raise the vibration of others, meet us on that level, and imagine the entire world on a certain level of consciousness and love. Wow. And it's people like you that are doing that, man, and through this and through what you're doing on your own blog as well, man. I applaud you for that. Well done. Much respect.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Till next time, then.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love you too, brother. Thank you for that. Chat soon, man.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye.